Chapter 6 The Beast of the Everfree.
This idea is stupid. Why are you even doing it?
I readjusted myself on the tree to get more comfortable on the branch. Through some of the leaves, I could see the sun rising over the forest canopy. Well, it's always a good idea to learn as much as you can about your enemy, so I figured this would be the perfect time to learn all I could about the ponies.
Yes, but did you have to pick a tree so close to the village?
I probably didn't. I was camped out in one of the trees of the park. It had been roughly a week since my first raid on the Apple family barn. The raids were getting progressively easier. I had found a shortcut through the woods that led to the apple orchard. Maybe not. But hey, now I can observe them a bit better.
We have a bad feeling about this.
I always found it funny how my voice referred to itself in plural, even though only one voice spoke. I asked it about that once, and it gave me nothing but silence in response. The conversations were becoming more and more normal each day.
You're not even in your best health. If you get caught...
I interrupted it with a nasty cough. I'm not going to get caught. You know what my plan is if worst comes to worst.
Yes, and it was full of holes,
the voice commented.
The ponies are coming. Stay silent.
I know the drill. I let out another cough and sniffed back the mucus running down my nose. I took note of how similarly the ponies acted to, well, humans. From my perch, I could see ponies leisurely walking around the park, some alone and some in groups. I could hear some ponies laughing next to my tree as one of them told a joke. In the distance, some of the small ponies, foals as I've come to know them, played games that varied from catch, tag, kite flying, and hide and seek. All of the ponies seemed so happy, so without worry. Not once did I see any discontent amongst them. It was like the perfect utopian society that everyone always dreamed about as a kid. Near noon, the numbers started to dwindle. I guess that even ponies had to eat lunch too. I took the lack of ponies as my cue to start eating and pulled out an apple out of my jacket pocket. Truth be told, I was getting sick of eating these things, but they were the best food I could find. The raw corn wasn't cutting it, and the carrots weren't exactly gourmet. Still, beggars can't be choosers. I started hacking again. My dry throat was killing me, and this runny nose was clogging my airthrow.
Still think this was a good idea?
I cleared my throat one last time. Of course! This time, I sneezed. I could have sworn some of the ponies heard me. Maybe... As soon as I was sure that none of the ponies were looking, I chucked the useless apple core as far away as I could. Using my hood as a sort of pillow, I rested my head against the rough bark of the tree. I realized then how poorly camouflaged I was. My dark blue jacket contrasted the orange and red leaves that were sprouting off of the branches. I guess I was lucky that most ponies didn't look up. Yes, everything was perfect. Rainbow Dash was perfect. Through the leaves, I spotted Applejack staring angrily at a random cloud. Rainbow Dash, I know you're up there. A guilty-looking blue Pegasus stuck her head out of the cloud. Oh, hey Applejack. What brings you here? You know darn well what brings me here. You're supposed to help me guard the farm last night from that no-good thieving monster. Oh. Rainbow Dash scratched the back of her head and chuckled nervously. Was that yesterday night? Yes, it was yesterday night, and you never showed. Now, because of your laziness, that thing made off with more of my family's food. Applejack growled. I tuned out the rest of their heated argument. Oh, yeah, I reminisced. Last night was crazy.
And you almost got caught,
the voice added. Almost, but didn't.
Don't get too cocky now. You're letting your guard down.
I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about, I replied. The next few hours seemed to drag on. My enthusiasm levels were running dangerously low. These ponies weren't doing anything remarkable. The highlight of my day so far was when Pinkie Pie showed up. I could never resist smiling whenever she popped up, even when she broke into one of her corny songs. Unfortunately, she, along with Applejack and Rainbow Dash, were long gone, depriving me of any rainbow entertainment. Can you believe Miss Shirley is going to do that field trip through the Everfree Forest? A young voice spoke beneath me. I looked down to see three fillies snacking under my tree.
I know, it's crazy.
The orange one, Scootaloo said while chewing on a sandwich. With that monster still running around, we're going to have to be extra careful. She smiled at her two friends. In fact, she added with a spooky voice, we might just get eaten. That's just crazy talk, Scootaloo, Apple Bloom bluntly said. What are the odds that monster will show up? Besides, the Gores come with us. Nothing could possibly go wrong. But what if the monster does show up? Sweetie Belle asked nervously. Then the Zagor can do some of her fancy schmancy potion stuff like always, Apple Bloom simply added. Yeah, and maybe we could help Big Macintosh to help too, Scootaloo snickered. Are we gonna have to start this again? Apple Bloom challenged. Sweetie Belle let out an annoyed groan, as if this happened on a regular basis. Please don't, she whimpered. Before any conflict could erupt, however, Rainbow Dash flew overhead with an important announcement. Attention every pony! Attention every pony! There's an important meeting at Ponyville Town Hall! Sweetie Belle used the interruption to her advantage. Come on, girls, let's go to that meeting. Ugh, a meeting? Scootaloo complained. Do we have to go? I'm afraid I'm gonna have to side with Scoots on this one, sweetie. Rainbow Dash said it was important, Sweetie Belle urged, and it might be about the monster. Apple Bloom and Scootaloo seemed uneasy at the subject. They gave each other a quick glance and shrugged. Sure, why not? With that, the three fillies departed. Other ponies sluggishly exited the park. It appears as if the whole town was going to this meeting. A meeting about me.
Don't even think about it.
Too late, I said as I hopped out of the tree and walked into the town. I was careful to stay out of sight, which wasn't too hard. The town was devoid of any ponies, just like when I first arrived. It didn't bring back fond memories either. Soon, the dull murmur of a large crowd inhabited the air. I followed the noise until a mass of multicolored ponies appeared around the corner of a building. I quickly retreated back behind the building and cautiously peeked around the corner again. None of the ponies were screaming or wreaking havoc across the streets, so I guessed that I wasn't spotted. I took my chances and darted across the street into a shadowy alley. Still, the ponies didn't react. I had a perfect view of the stage before the crowd. All I needed to do now was watch and wait. After a few minutes, a tan pony with a grayish mane and half-moon spectacles appeared on stage and stood behind a wooden podium in the middle. She cleared her throat and started to speak. Citizens of Ponyville! I'm sure you are all wondering why I called for this emergency town meeting. There was a slight murmur in the crowd. We are here to discuss an issue which has been brought to my attention by our beloved librarian, Miss Twilight Sparkle. We are here to discuss the matter of the monster that appeared a little over a week ago. There was a small moment of unrest in the crowd as the pony mentioned me. I shifted uncomfortably in the shadows. Miss Sparkle and I have had an interesting discussion on the topic and believe now is the time for action. And now, without further ado, here is Miss Twilight Sparkle. At the end of her speech, the tan pony stepped off of the stage to allow Twilight, that troublesome purple unicorn, to take the spotlight. Thank you, Mayor. She nodded and turned her attention to the eager crowd before her. A stack of papers floated next to her, surrounded by a purple aura. I rubbed my eyes to clear what I was sure was simply a mirage, but the papers were still suspended in mid-air. As the mayor said, we need to talk about the strange new creature that attacked Ponyville over a week ago. This strange creature has raided Sweet Apple Acres for the past 7 days now, in a row. Each time it steals more and more and becomes better at doing it. Soon it will start invading the town. Then what will we do? Twilight looked expectantly at the crowd. We could drive it away, our random pony suggested. An excellent idea, Twilight praised. But why should we wait until then, when the beast is prepared and at full strength? When she didn't get an audible response, she continued. It would be much more logical for us to go into the Everfree Forest and... Uproars in the crowd cut her off. Go into the Everfree? Are you crazy? The monster will eat us for sure if we go in there. Every pony calm down, Twilight tried. But the crowd was still in a frenzy. She tried to calm them again, but they only got louder and more rowdy. Quiet! The crowd suddenly became dead silent. Twilight gazed over the sea of faces, daring another pony to interrupt her. Now, she cautiously started, let's get one thing straight. I am not forcing any pony to go to the Everfree Forest. A wave of relief washed over the crowd. But I do need some volunteers. If we don't stop this problem now, it could get out of hoof real fast. The crowd was silent. I'll volunteer. Me too. We'll help in any way we can. Twilight gleamed as the number of volunteers rapidly grew. It seemed as if all of Ponyville was willing to hunt me down. This is perfect! Twilight exclaimed. With this many volunteers, we should have the monster captured within a week. Cheers erupted throughout the crowd. Torches and pitchforks spawned in the sea of ponies as they screamed for my downfall. Twilight barked out orders as the crowd became a chaotic motion of colors. I need every pony to get into one of 3 groups. We need as many Pegasi as we can to look out for any signs of this monster. If any Pegasus sees anything suspicious, report to Rainbow Dash. Applejack, Big Mac, and Pinkie Pie, try to gather some ponies to defend the town while we're gone. You can count on us, Twilight, Applejack shouted over the commotion. Right! Every pony else, we're going to the Everfree. Use the buddy system. Don't go anywhere by yourself. Are we ready to catch ourselves a monster? Yeah! I shrank deeper into the alleys. Any suggestions? I asked my voice, praying it would answer.
Go out there and fight the ponies to the death?
It offered. No thanks. I prefer living.
Run to the forest and hope that the ponies don't spot you during your escape?
That sounds... The once lively town was now dead silent. All of the ponies who were recently cheering for my capture were staring directly into the dark alley harboring me. I was frozen in place, hoping that my lack of movement would render me invisible. It's the beast of the Everfree! So much for that plan. I darted out of the alley and towards the direction of the forest. Thundering hooves and flapping wings filled the air as the ponies gave chase. I glanced behind me to see my odds and didn't like what I saw. Nearly all of the ponies from the rally were on my tail. Pitchforks gleamed in the sunlight. Torches, though redundant, added to the chaotic picture of the angry mob. Several Pegasi were flying above the bulk of the ponies. I attempted to shake them off by taking every turn imaginable, but they were too stubborn for a few turns to throw them off. I exited the town and entered the park. My pursuers were catching up to me. Now that we were out in the open, I couldn't take any sharp turns without being easily cut off. My only hope was to make a beeline to the forest and pray that I could outrun the ponies for just a little bit longer. The forest trees were so close! I was only a few yards away when one of the Pegasi dive-bombed me. I was given a mouthful of soil as Rainbow Dash pushed me to the ground. By the time I was back on my feet, I was completely surrounded by ponies. They all seemed pretty ticked off that I paid them a visit.
You need to escape, now!
Ah, you don't say, I grumbled. There were no visible holes or weak links in the thick ring of ponies around me. They all seemed evenly dispersed. I took a step forward, just to see how they would react. Many ponies backed up in fright and regained their composition shortly after. They were scared of me. To them, I was a strange creature not to be trifled with. Before I could use their fear against them, though, a lasso attached itself to one of my wrists. The owner of the rope, Applejack, gave it a sharp tug, causing me to stumble in her direction. Another rope was latched to my other wrist. I glared at the other end of the rope at Big Macintosh, who glared right back. Together, the two ponies pulled in opposite directions, immobilizing me, dealing a serious amount of pain to my arms. I struggled to free myself, but the rope stuck into my skin every time I tried to move. Well, that didn't take as long as I thought at all. A section of the ring parted enough to allow a very smug-looking Twilight through. Truthfully, I expected a bit more resistance. Sorry I was such a disappointment, I spat. She disregarded my comment and walked around me a few times. The crowd was incredibly tensed. They seemed ready to lunge at me, or in some cases run away, with all they had at a moment's notice. A few foals stuck their head out to get a better look at the monster, but their parents quickly shooed them away.
Ah, this is degrading. How dare they observe you like a toy in a window? How dare you let them?
The voice demanded. Well, if you have any ideas, feel free to share. I mumbled. What was that? Twilight asked. She shrugged off my silence and continued observing me. I gave another loud sneeze, startling a few ponies in the crowd. You know, you're not really that intimidating. I couldn't tell if that was supposed to be an insult or not. No matter. You've committed crimes against Ponyville, and now it is time you paid recompense. With a quick teleportation spell, you'll be sent to the local prison where a cell will be waiting for you until it is time for you to be punished. Her horn started glowing and a warm sensation spread throughout my chest. It quickly became hotter, so hot that it felt as if a fire was raging inside of my body. I dropped to my knees and started coughing. My heart had become a living, beating furnace, spreading the flames wherever my circulatory system traveled. I desperately tried to grab at my chest as if it would quell the pain, but the rope still had my arms outstretched. It was unbearable! I screamed until my lungs were empty to vent my agony. A brilliant white light erupted around me. My trip through that strange tunnel a week and a half ago felt like a walk through a freezer compared to this. Then it suddenly vanished. I collapsed onto the cold earth. My body was literally smoking. Through my weak vision, I could see faint trails of vapor leaking out of my pores. I probably would have been crying if the heat didn't dry my eyes. Well, that wasn't supposed to happen, Twilight deadpanned.
Do it. We know you want to,
the voice cooed. I slowly stood back up. The ropes that were once tied to me now lay on the ground and smoldering as if they were burned by a fire. My eyes locked onto the purple unicorn in front of me. The ring of ponies was completely silent. The only noise that could be heard was the rustling leaves and my heavy breathing.
You know you want to,
the voice persisted. Twilight gave a nervous laugh. Well, let's try that again, shall we? Fueled by rage, I brought up a foot and kicked Twilight square in the face with all I had. How's that for intimidating? I demanded. Shrieks and gasps erupted throughout the ring of onlookers. The vast majority of them took many steps back, while others stood frozen in shock. All eyes were on me. A wicked smile found its way to my face.
It felt good, didn't it?
It did feel good. I felt as if I could take on any of the ponies and win. A part of me wanted to also. Twilight! A few familiar ponies, Applejack, Rainbow Dash, and Pinkie Pie, rushed to the fallen unicorn's aid. I'm fine, really, Twilight coughed, but I could see a small trickle of blood escape from her nose and mouth. Rainbow Dash looked up from Twilight and right at me. I could see her anger burning in her eyes. Get it! She screamed. The ponies were slow to react, thankfully. I ran past a group of confused ponies and entered the forest. A few seconds later, the ponies began to give chase. I could hear their shouts of outrage as I weaved through the mess of trees. There was one thing that these ponies didn't understand. They were on my turf now. After a while of running, the sound of ponies seemed to dwindle. Every now and then a pony's brightly colored coat would stand out of the green foliage and I would quickly hide myself until said pony was out of sight. Things were starting to look up for me. I progressed deeper into the forest. None of the ponies could have been crazy enough to follow me this far, so I let my guard down and started using the trail. I would cast a few glances behind me to see if I was being followed, but each glance proved my paranoia wrong. Now, I've traveled this trail many times before. In fact, this was the trail that I used on my raids on Sweet Apple Acres. I knew practically every inch of this small path, so, naturally, I was confused when a rather large obstruction popped into view. I'm not going delusional. Am I? I cautiously asked.
It's a possibility.
Gee, way to boost my morale, I muttered, as I walked up to the gaping hole that was recently dug into the earth. The hole was very large, about 6 steps wide and 10 steps long. It looked deep enough to fit 2 of me, one standing right on top of the other, so it was probably a little over 12 feet. What really struck me as odd was the texture of the dirt on the inside. It was smooth as if cut. Someone, or some pony, must have dug it up recently, too, considering how it wasn't there this morning. Just then, a thought popped up. If this thing was dug, then it most likely had a purpose, and given the dimensions, I had a sickening feeling that I didn't want to know just what that purpose was. I cautiously tiptoed around the hole, giving it wary glances. About halfway across, some of the bushes adjacent to me started rustling. Gotcha! A light, mint-green blur shouted as it tackled me into the hole. Time slowed down. The blur was definitely a pony, a unicorn to be more exact. She was attached to my side as we fell. Her eyes were clamped tight and her mouth was frozen in delight. She was so happy. She was happy that she caught me, but she was happy nonetheless. The earthy bottom was coming up fast. The unicorn was completely oblivious to the fate she had pushed us to. She was still smiling dumbly like a kid who had recently received a jackpot of candy. Something about her smile made me happy. It's a hard concept to explain, but in the small time span that we were falling, it felt as if her joy was radiating off of herself and into me. I had to do something to protect her, as strange as it sounded. I quickly pulled her close to my chest and wrapped myself around her. She was startled at first, but when we hit the ground, she became motionless. My back took the brunt of the impact. My eyes were shut, but I could still feel the weight of the unicorn on my torso. The fall had knocked the wind out of me, and I was forcing myself to breathe in and out. I cracked an eye open. White and grayish mint-green hair covered my vision. The unicorn slowly lifted her head and turned to me with unfocused eyes. After staring at me for a few seconds, she yelped and scurried off of me. I remained in my prone position and observed her as she attempted to climb the walls and cry for help at the same time. "Did y'all hear something?" Applefloom's voice came from above. "I think it came from our trap," Scootaloo's excited voice replied. The mint-green unicorn's ears pricked up. "Down here!" she hollered. "Some pony! Any pony! Help!" Three fillies poked their heads over the edge. "I don't believe it! Our trap worked!" Sweetie Belle exclaimed. Does that mean we've got all those leaves for nothing?" asked the disappointed Scootaloo. Applebloom's eyes lit up with excitement. "Do you think this means we got our cutie marks?" The filly's head disappeared for a few seconds. They returned over the edge, looking a bit let down. "Hey, are you going to help me or what?" the unicorn demanded. "Lyra, what are you doing down there? This trap was for the monster." "I don't care, just get me out of here!" the unicorn yelled. She gave me a nervous glance before trotting in place. "Funny thing about that," chuckled Sweetie. "You see, we didn't expect to catch another pony, so we kinda didn't make a way out." Lyra's jaw almost hit the ground. "But don't worry," Applebloom smiled nervously. "We're gonna get some help." Scootaloo piped up. "Yeah, in the meantime, you can..." The orange filly vanished. I heard some wood snap. She returned with a branch in her mouth. "Use this," she said, muffled by the branch. She tossed the limp him into the pit and put on a hopeful smile. "A stick?" the bewildered unicorn asked. "You expect me to defend myself from the monster with a stick?" "Would you like some leaves, too?" Scootaloo offered. Just go." Aren't you sure you don't want us to go?" The three fillies scampered off to who knows where, leaving me and Lyra alone. A golden aura encompassed the branches that flew over her. Lyra turned to me and put on a brave face, but the look in her eyes and her quavering voice betrayed her fear. "I'm warning you, I have a branch, and I'm not afraid to use it." I rolled my eyes and got up. The branch swooped by and started beating me. "Hey, ouch! What gives?" Lyra's eyes shrank when I reached my full height, and the branch started another barrage of beatings. "Quit that! Ow! Enough!" I grabbed the floating branch and struggled with whatever was holding it in place. The golden ore eventually died, leaving the branch in my power. I swiftly snapped it on my leg and threw it out of the pit. Lyra let out a sharp squeak and huddled in the corner, eyes trained on me. I covered the distance between us in 2 long strides. Towering over her, I raised my hand as if to speak, but my words faltered. She tried to make herself as small as possible. The sight was pathetic, to say the least. It made me upset, not at her, but at myself. I felt foolish for whatever I was about to do. Forget it, I grumbled. I moved to the opposite side of the pit and plopped down with my back propped up against the wall. Another spell of coughing befell upon me. Mucus pooled in the back of my mouth, which I immediately dispelled by spitting out. Lyra gave me a funny look, one of both confusion and worry. She recomposed herself and positioned herself in a more comfortable-looking manner. Her head was cocked to the side a bit, and with one eyebrow raised. "Are you, okay?" I hacked again before answering. "No, I'm not okay. I've just been tackled into a pit by a crazy talking unicorn, for Pete's sake. Why would I be okay?" She seemed a bit taken aback by my comment. I didn't care, though. I was busy venting. Seriously, why would you do that? Did you not see this pit you dug? Hold on a minute. I did not dig this hole. I was busy stalking you. Oh, so now it's my fault we're down here. Yes! You're the one who tackled me in here, though. By now we were both on our feet, or hooves in her case, yelling at her. So, if you weren't standing at the edge of the pit when I tackled you, then we wouldn't be down here. Well, if you weren't stalking me in the first place, none of this would have happened. And if you didn't attack Ponyville, then I wouldn't have been stalking you. My face started heating up with anger. I jabbed a finger in her direction. If you ponies would practice what you preach, there never would have been any attack, I screamed. If you stupid ponies would have at least tried to show an ounce of kindness instead of attacking me like I was some rabid, wild animal, I would have reacted differently. Did you ever think of that? Laura was shocked by my outburst and didn't even attempt to hide it. But, she said quietly, Bon Bon said... I cut her off by continuing my rant. Because of you ponies, I've starved myself a day and had to resort to stealing my food at night. Because of you ponies, I had to isolate myself in a stone fortress in the middle of nowhere with no one to talk to except an annoying voice that keeps making snide remarks about everything I do.
Hey, we resent that.
Shut up, I snarled. This isn't about you. Lara looked at me in confusion. Do you even know what it's like? I've been pushed into a situation that I could have never prepared for. Everything was all peachy keen until a week and a half ago. I never had to worry about my next meal, or how I should ration whatever scraps I managed to collect. I had a fridge stocked with food. I could easily grab a snack without a second thought about wasting resources because I could easily get my hands on more. And do you even know what it's like to be isolated from the rest of your family? My eyes were getting watery. I am alone, and I hate it. I have no one to talk to. My throat was getting sore. I coughed again, but that only succeeded in making it worse. I slouched down to a sitting position. While my throat cleared up a bit, I continued talking. Every day, I look out of the forest. Do you know what I see? Lyra was dead silent. I took it as my cue to continue. I see you ponies playing around, hanging out, talking to each other. Sometimes I laughed and corrected myself. All the time. I wondered what it would have been like if that first night had just happened different. I couldn't continue any further. I was too busy choking down sobs. A gentle touch patted my shoulder. I looked up and saw Lyra next to me with a sympathetic smile. There. It's okay. I pulled her into a hug. She tensed up, but eventually returned the gesture. Gosh, I must have looked pathetic crying into her mane like that, but I couldn't help it. I was holding this in for quite some time. With no one to talk to, I had no way of releasing this much emotion. Sure, I had the voice in my head, but it rarely responded to these kind of things. It was much more comforting having someone to comfort me, even if it was a pony. I was shaking as I released all of that bottled-up sadness, and Lara pat me on the back awkwardly the entire time. She probably didn't know it, but even trying to act like she cared meant a lot to me. Pure coincidence it cannot be for me to stumble on such a sad scene. Lara and I quickly pulled ourselves apart, blushing. I sniffed my runny nose and wiped my tears with my jacket sleeve. A smiling zebra was standing over the edge of the pit. Zecora, is that you? I asked. Yes, it is, my strange friend, and it looks as if you could use a hand. She laughed at her own joke. I weakly chuckled. Hold on a sec, you two know each other? Lara asked. We have run into each other before, but he left before I could ask him much more. I told him just about everything about me, but I still have no clue as to who he might be. Well, get us out of here, and I'll tell you whatever you want, I promised. Besides, I kinda owe you for that potion. Wait. Lyra shook her head. Can somebody please tell me what is going on? Just how did you two meet? I'll tell you later, I simply said. We had a difficult time trying to find a way out. Zecora couldn't drag me out by herself, and I was too skeptical to allow Lyra to go first. It's not that I didn't trust Zecora, but let's just say once bitten, twice shy. There was an argument about my cynicism, and I reluctantly let Lyra out first to help me later. The whole ordeal of getting out of getting hurt was a bit uncomfortable. I'm not going to go into detail, but let's just say that ponies don't seem to mind personal space as much as humans do. Come on, beast, Lyra called down. It's your turn. She and Zecora lowered my jacket, which I regretfully allowed to be used as a rope, into my reach. Okay, let's get one thing straight, I said as I grabbed my jacket. My name is not the Beast or the Monster. I have a real name, and I'd prefer you call me by it. My hand grabbed the top of the pit. Lyra and Zecora helped pull me up. When our breathing was back to normal, I held out a hand. Name's Hunter. Hunter Gray. You mean like the color? Lyra eyed my expectant arm warily. Zecora, on the other hand, was quick to shake it. Kinda. I dusted off my jacket and put it back on. The sleeves were slightly stretched, now covering my palms wholly, but I didn't mind. Personally, it felt more comfortable. All right, Hunter, Lyra said, still disregarding my offer. She got right in my face and poked a hoof at my chest. Spill the beans. Why are you here? Who sent you? Do you really eat ponies for breakfast? What are your plans for invading Ponyville? I stared at her blankly. I know that knowledge of our new friend is what you thirst, but perhaps you should start by asking the more important ones first, Zecora offered. We started walking away from the pit. I was unaware that we were heading back to the Ponytown. Right, Lyra mumbled. She craned my neck to look at me. Is it true you eat ponies? What? I asked in shock. No! I probably couldn't eat you even if I wanted to. Not saying that I would want to. You ponies act too much like humans. You can be like cannibalism or something. Lyra seemed unsure of how to respond. I probably would have felt the same way if I was on her end of the conversation. Humans? Is that like an insult or something? I snapped my head in the mint green unicorn's direction. Come again? You said humans. Yeah, human. You know. I gestured to myself. The gears in Lyra's head slowly turned as she finally caught on to what I was implying. She let out a long, "Oh," and continued walking. That was probably the most awkward question I ever had to answer. I mean, how many times in one's life is a person asked about his or her species? It isn't exactly something you plan for, and with humans being the dominant species on this planet, one would think that she would have at least heard about us. This is going to sound a bit odd, but my voice trailed off. What? Lyra asked. You're a unicorn, right? Well, of course. Did you not notice the horn on top of my head? I blushed at my stupidity. Well, yeah. It's just that I didn't know that was the term for your species. And an awkward silence filled the air. And the ones with wings, they're called Pegasi? Lyra gave me an odd look. Are you slow in the head or something? No. I just wanted to make sure I was using the right terms is all. I was feeling a bit hot. It was time to change the conversation. So, wonderful weather? Is that the best you can do? Zecora shook her head. I expected a more interesting topic from you. Don't blame me. I threw my hands up defensively. I haven't had any social interaction for the past week. I'm practically new to this. Which is what we're going to fix, Lyra said. And just what is that supposed to mean? I asked. You're not scary, Lyra deadpanned, but the ponies don't know that. To them, you're some monster that eats ponies foolish enough to go to the Everfree Forest alone. If we show them how nice you are, then maybe we can fix this whole the monster in the Everfree Forest is evil and needs to be destroyed business. Lyra is correct, Zecora pitched in. If you go to the town, then the ponies' thoughts might defect. Tyler told me what happened on your first night, and it's no wonder the ponies are in much fright. The only way you can hope to make amends is to go into Ponyville and make some friends.
You're not actually buying this malarkey, are you?
Well, I don't know, I whispered. It sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it sounds like a good idea. For all you know, they could be setting up an elaborate trap for you to spring.
Is something wrong, Hunter? Lyra asked. No, not at all. I'm just nervous. Yeah, nervous. Nothing else. I gave a weak chuckle to try and reassure myself. It wasn't working. The edge of the forest was coming into view. You're sure this is going to work? Well, no. But we'll stand by your side until every pony believes you're safe.
They don't even think this is going to work, and they're the ones insisting you go. Their lives aren't on the line, yours is. Why should you take any chances?
Promise, Lyra added. Everything stopped for me. She promised. She wouldn't go back on a promise, would she? A promise was the ultimate test of trust. She obviously trusted me, but did I trust her?
Of course not! She could be lying, you fool! Did you forget that she was hunting you at first?
But Zecora, I whispered.
What about Zecora? If we remember correctly, you stole from her and ran away like a convict. She's probably working for Twilight. What if you are taken to her? You will both remember those nightmares that you've had about that encounter.
I cringed. I did remember those nightmares. The operating table I was strapped to, the blood splattered all over the walls of the dimly lit room, Twilight with an evil grin and a scalpel expertly balanced in her hoof, the insane laughter in the background. Some bile found its way to my mouth.
Do you really want those dreams to become reality?
I stopped dead at the forest edge. Lyra and Zecora continued to head before turning around. Hunter, are you sure everything is okay? Oh, the sincerity in her voice. Could it really be lying to me?
Are you willing to take the chance?
No, I mumbled. I took a half step back. What? Lyra asked. No, I repeated, this time louder. Sorry, I can't. I took a few more steps back. Hunter, come back, Lyra pleaded. Everything will be alright.
Lies!
The voice screamed. A massive headache threatened to split my skull in two. I clasped my hands on each side of my head to suppress it.
You're a criminal in that accursed town. Twilight even said so. You retaliated against them, stolen from them, spied on them. Why would they accept you? You're nothing but a monster to them. You are the beast of the Everfree.
You're right, I whispered. What? Who's right? Hunter, talk to us. Lyra took a step forward. I was trembling. My mind felt as if it was split in two. One side telling me to go with them, and the other telling me to stay. No, my quivering voice managed. No, not today. But someday. Maybe. I turned around and walked further into the forest. Wait! Lyra called out. She rushed up to me. She hesitated when she had my attention. You wouldn't hurt any pony, would you? I gazed into her golden eyes. They were so confused? No, it was something else. Something I couldn't quite put my finger on. I knelt down before her. I would never try to intentionally hurt a pony. Promise. Really? I traced an X on my chest with my finger and then raised my right hand, crossed my heart, and hoped to die. Lyra gave me a bright smile before rejoining Zecora. Don't worry, Hunter. We'll try to get things straight. I nodded in acknowledgement and trudged through the forest, deep in thought. Why was I so scared to go with them? It would have been a monumental change for me, but the thought that the outcome would be positive was preposterous considering all I did to them. Lyra and Zecora were the only two ponies, one pony and a zebra. There was no way they could sway the majority of Ponyville that I wasn't evil.
That was a cute little lie you told that unicorn.
The voice's comment broke my train of thought. What?
You know what we are talking about. When you said that you would never hurt another pony. Oh, we got a good kick out of that.
That wasn't a lie, I protested. I was being serious. I am not going to hurt another pony.
Do not try to lie to us. We felt the rush you had when you struck Twilight down. We know of your little habits. How you always bottle up your emotions. We know how you snap when the tensions rise. We know everything about you. We are you.
A chill ran up my spine. The voice had never said anything so ominous before. I started feeling drowsy. My internal clock was telling me it was time to rest. My castle soon came into view, much to my pleasure. I slowly made my way up to the throne room and surveyed its appearance, as I always did. There was never anything different about it than the countless other times I checked on it, call me paranoid. I plopped down into the cushioned chair. My eyelids were getting heavy. As I slouched into a more comfortable position, the voice's last comment rang through my head. We are you. It was a bit disturbing, really. I never put too much thought into the subject. The voice always gave me advice, and I would usually follow it. To say what it just said it just sounded so wrong. Sleep beckoned me with open arms. My thoughts were muddied as I ever so slowly slipped from consciousness. I threw myself into whatever crazy dream my subconscious self would throw at me, and silently prayed it would be pleasant.
Good night, Hunter.
Good night.